What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I hope everybody's having a fabulous Sunday morning. I'm going to do all my pleasantries. We'll go ahead and take just a few minutes to say hi to everybody. And then you can see I've got kind of a little mint press thing going on behind me. And we're going to be talking about something that's really cool. I got an amazing guest who is affectionately referred to as the King of Lincoln Sense. Uh, just a brilliant man, generous, kind, and knows a lot about the Lincoln. Paula Bloom is in the house. Hi, Paula. How are you? Good to see you. Ladybug Stacker is here. Kane Friday is here. Thank you all for being channel members. Appreciate it. JC Likes Pam is in the house. BH Custom stopped by to say hi. Hopefully, he's still here. We're going to take just a few minutes and allow everybody to come up. But we're going to talk a little bit really quickly about what we're going to do today and a little bit about our guest. And we'll be bringing him up in just a few moments. I just want to allow a couple people to get on up. I did start about a minute early. So we'll get about 5, 6, 7 people in here, and then we'll go ahead and start doing this. So many of you know Chuck from Coppercoins. If you don't, then shame on you. You need to get over there and sub their page. He has a really cool program over there in which obviously talks about a lot of Lincoln Sense, but you can actually get in on what they call reveals, and they will take a bank wrapped roll. Now, this obviously isn't a bank wrapped roll, but they'll take a bank wrapped roll, sell the coins for $2, $3, $4, $5, whatever the amount is for that particular roll, and then they will search them for you. They will identify any varieties that they have. They will document them. They will come back to you in something looking like this. And if there's any type of varieties or double dyes or anything such as that, they will be listed. If they happen to do any kind of identification, then they'll sign it and you'll have your plate coin. It's really cool. Really neat program. Hey, Joe McBride's in the house. I actually told our guest that I had a feeling that you would be in here. High Plains Drifter is here. Hi, Nanostacks. Good to see you. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. And then he does this game that is really freaking cool. So stop by tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and come check it out. See what it's about. Just watch and observe. If it's something you're interested in doing, then go ahead and do that. Hey, Malcolm, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. All right. So without further ado, Lainey is typing. Hi, Lainey. Hey, check out the video Tuesday, Lainey. I got your Secret Santa. It was awesome. Made me smile. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. All right. Well, without further ado, the man with the plan, today's guest is the one and only Chuck Daughtrey. Hey, Chuck, how you doing, sir?
Good morning. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. So if you've seen the thumbnail, Chuck is bringing to us something that I feel is quite amazing, and that is a counterfeit Lincoln set. Not just some of them, the entire set. We're talking like a 300 plus coin set of all counterfeits. So obviously today we're not going to be going through the entire things, but I kind of just want to break out let people know kind of what's happening today. So he's going to take it. He's going to run with it, talk about certain things. If you have questions in chat, tag me, right, at Frostbite. The name will come up. If you're on your phone, just do Frosty in capital letters and then ... and then ask your question. And then I will copy it to a Word document. And when we have a normal break in the conversation, I will go ahead and ask Chuck the question for somebody. If there's something specific to that coin before we move on, I'll read all those questions. We'll answer those and then move on to the next one. So clearly we won't be able to get through all of them. Hey, Farm Dog, what's going on? Thanks for being here, bud. AZ Coins, thanks for being a channel member. Once all of that's done, then is there anything else? And then we'll move to the next set of coins. So he's got some coins specifically he wants to talk about. He's going to talk about the authentic versus the counterfeit give you some general information. But this should be a lot of fun. So got to get Java. Yeah, we just did the same thing just a few moments ago. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over. We have a lot of things to go over. So Chuck, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to everybody. I see a lot of names I recognize. I'm going to go through a whole bunch of coins here. Not all of them belong to the same set. As Frosty said, there's a number of coins in a set of Lincolns. I will be going through some of the more important ones, though. Some of the ones that are obviously going to cost you if you don't know what you're looking for. You'll see my head turning a lot. I've got a whole bunch of stuff all around me, and I have my my nice little screen up over here, and I've got the chat up. I may or may not notice and recognize people right off, simply because I'm kind of looking everywhere, and I don't have more than two eyes. So here we go. One of the first things that people have a little hang up about when it comes to Lincoln cents, or come to any coin and terminology, is the difference between a counterfeit and an alteration. An altered coin is a real coin that's been changed. It's been changed to be deceptively different and appear to be something it's not. And a counterfeit coin is a piece that never was a coin to begin with and was struck clandestinely or illegally, or however you might want to say it. Now, the first one I'll show you here is a 1909 V.D.B. This is a counterfeit coin. It isn't even real. It weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.1 grams, but it is not a real coin at all. I'll show you the reverse here. It doesn't look too far off the real thing until you start looking more into the details. And the details will show you there's a lot of graininess on this. And the graininess is generally because their dies were not very well made. And the more they struck coins, the worse they got. I actually have my microscope in hand, and I'll be able to show you that. Right. I got to get used to this. Nope. Let's do this. There. Right there. You'll see there's a bunch of little marks all over the place. And some of these marks are actually pock marks placed in there by the dies not being clean when they were striking their coins. And the U.S. Mint does a little better job of keeping their dies clean. But you'll see that there's also a lot of little marks all over this, plus a little weakness that you would normally not see on a Lincoln cent, especially in 1909. And that right there is your tell. It's a completely fake coin. Look at your dots in V.D.B. They look like dinner plates. And the actual dots in V.D.B. are really, really small. I mean, they're a lot smaller than this. Go back over to the Obverse, and one of your biggest tells on an 09S V.D.B, pretty much every time, if it's not the real thing, your mint mark isn't going to be right. And this has almost, well, it's a messy mint mark, but it almost looks like the 1945 S Micro. It's a really small S, and it's the 45S Micro Mercury dime. But you can also see, I mean, there's just a lot of places where the detail is just not clear. And I'll tell you, with less than 1 million coins minted, all of the 09S V.D.B coins are going to be a lot cleaner than this. So there's that. I'll put this back over under the other scope and let you look at it one more time before I move on. I've got two different scopes I'm working with here. So there we go. So it's a decent looking coin. And I guess to the onlooker, if you're really not paying attention, or if you're buying in dingy light, which 95% of all coin shows is dingy light, you could actually be fooled by this. And that would be a very tough thing for you, because this is worth about $1.50. Now, next up is another counterfeit 1909 V.D.B. Now, this one's a little more obvious because the design just looks wrong. The 1909 date is way too big, and it's too strong, and the zero is not perfectly round like it would be on a regular 1909 S or a 1909 Lincoln. The other problem is the obvious elephant in the room. This one's about 20% off center, and very, very few, if any, of these were off center, especially this much. Your reverse, you got a lot of interesting things going on in the reverse here. First of all, the reverse looks more like a metal than a coin. Everything's very, very sharp, very, very clean, and very thick. And that's just not normal. The other thing is there's a really strong clash mark. I can't point to things while I'm over here. But if you look inside the N and over by the D in United, the N in Cent and the D in United, you'll see that there's a shadow there. Well, that's a pretty strong clash of the throat and chin area. And if I stick this under the other scope, I can actually point to stuff. Let me get it over there first. And we'll get used to this soon enough. But here you can see that the design elements are just wrong. They just don't look right. They're too rounded on the corners. There's your clash. You can see the clash of the throat and the chin area. And the details are just too sharp, too thick, too flat. It doesn't look like a real coin at all. But the other thing that you'll notice, which you'll notice with all counterfeits, all your counterfeits to some degree are going to have that pitting, the little puck marks, because of how they created the dies. You can see this right here. They used a bunch of little tiny swirls, like a tool, that they were hitting to sharpen the edge here, and you can see a bunch of little circles. That is definitely not something you're going to see on the real coin. So now we go from a counterfeit to an alteration. This coin, I'm going to show you the reverse on this one first. The reverse on this coin looks pretty clean. It looks pretty correct. This is what a 1909 Lincoln Cent reverse looks like. But we have a little issue on this one. And the little issue is one of your biggest tells. It's the mint mark. Mint mark is just wrong. The mint mark on a real 1909 S Lincoln Cent, the serifs on the corners of the top and the bottom corner of the letter are going to stand straight up and down on the real thing. Now, this one has an angle right here, and this angle right here is very common to the S mint mark in the early 40s, but not in 1909. So why they chose to do it like this, I have no idea, but this tends to be a relatively common alteration, is adding an S mint mark to a 1909 V.D.B. Lincoln Cent, and it turns out to be the wrong mint mark, which I guess we are all lucky for. But this is a real 1909 V.D.B. Lincoln Cent. It is the real monkey. It's just got the wrong style of mint mark on it, which shows us that it was added to the coin. Let me see there. So
hey,
from
Chuck,
first
on
appearance,
Coppercoins, is there do you have a resource that shows the 4 mint marks of the SVDB?
I don't think I do yet. I'm working on trying to completely remaster the entire website. There's a lot of things that are not on that website that need to be.
Copy that. So what I'm going to do is on the PCGS site, so I want to go ahead and add that in the link for anybody who's not sure exactly what those 4 mint marks varieties should look like. I've just added the link. It's going to show you the mint mark and the position. So now you can kind of understand what he's talking about as you look through this. So that resource is now in the chat.
I'm going to follow through to that link just so I can see what they've put together here. Okay, I believe these are all the same mint mark positions in order that I have listed in Keys to the Lincoln. It's a small book that I wrote a few years back that shows all of the keys and where the mint marks are for all the keys. So this would be dies 1, 2, 3, 4 in order. Die number 1, the one on top, is the most scarce. It's the one that's hardest to find. In fact, I've never seen a photo of one of these in uncirculated. And the other 3 are all common. well, common as 1909S V.D.B would go, which I guess isn't very common at all. But anyhow, I'll go back to, what was I doing? Okay, this. All right, so this is an alteration. So there's a difference between a real coin that's been messed with and a fake coin. Now you've seen it. Okay, so we have another one that I'll show you very briefly on the Obverse. This is a real 1909 Lincoln cent. It's been whizzed. It's been messed with. But it looks like a real 1909S V.D.B. until you look at it closely, which we will do as soon as I can figure my display out. There we go. Look at this. This is an added V.D.B. Now, the V.D.B itself, they did a pretty decent job with, but the area around it, they just never really got it clean. I'm not exactly sure how they did this. It could be a small die that they used to actually punch into the coin to raise the metal, or they could have added metal to it. And what we're seeing here is the result of one or the other. But you can see a bunch of tooling marks down here. This was on the coin itself, so they had to do some carving cleanup on the coin. There's actually a what appears to be a die crack there too. And then you can see all of the lettering. Okay, like here. You can see right here how this lettering has a little raised flange on the corner, on the edge, and then this has a little raised flange. You can see the little raised bits. So it looks like the edges of the letters are all raised. Well, they are. And the reason for that's because this coin has been wire brushed to death. Some sort of a buffing wheel or a wire wheel or something, a very fine wire wheel. Something has polished this coin. And it's made obvious by the fact that the edges of all the letters kind of stand up like they should not. It looks a little overworked. And there's little cracks and stuff all over this. I'm not sure that this isn't a restruck reverse, but I'm not sure how they could have done it without messing up the obverse. You can see a little bit of doubling there on the last M in unum. And it's just it's kind of messed up. But it's most obvious. Okay, now this is where coming into knowing your varieties can help you. It's most obvious by the mint mark itself. Now the mint mark, I'm not going to go there yet. The mint mark is a real one. This is a real 1909S Lincoln cent. But they made a big mistake because this is the 1909S over horizontal S. RPM number 2. You can see the bottom of the S right down here. And it comes around, and then you can see the top of the S right up here. So it's got a sideways S resting right here. And that's what the 1909S RPM number 2 looks like. Now, I mentioned 1909S RPM 2, not SVDB RPM number 2, because these never existed on V.D.B Lincoln cents. So that gives you another obvious, well, this can't be a V.D.B because it's RPM number 2. Or the S over horizontal S, which that part is real. But you can tell again by looking at the date, looking at Liberty, and looking at some of the other design features that there's a lot of raised area on the edges of some of these letters. And that will show you that this side also has been whizzed. Very well done, though. It still has a little bit of a spiral, like the cartwheel. I'll move it back over here and show you that. I'm getting better. But it still has just a little bit of what would be considered like luster. It's not quite completely brassoed. But that's what this one looks like. Okay, so I have shown you most of the 1909 S's I have. I've got probably 15 or 20 more, but none of the others that I would show you will actually give you anything that these did not give you. So this would be the time, if you have any questions regarding the 1909S or the 09S V.D.B fakes, to ask. and we can go through it a little bit more if you need to.
So one thing that I did do for you is when you were talking about RPM 002, I went
Yes.
ahead and put your Coppercoins link to that particular one. I did the mid-state one.
Okay.
So that link is in there. So if anybody wants to see exactly what the actual MM2 looks like, you can get a really good image of that on his site.
I will go ahead and show you the 1909S and the 1909S V.D.B that go with the counterfeit set that I have, which the counterfeit set runs from 1909S all the way up to 1958. And yes, I do have a fake 1958D Lincoln Cent. This is the 09S, not V.D.B. It's just grainy. You can just see that it's just not right. I don't know what I would say about it other than the fact that the edges just aren't really there. The whole thing kind of looks soft. You flip it over and same thing. Everything is just not quite right. And this set, by the way, this was done in China. Everything, all of what you see here was done in China. I did not process the surface to make it look like this. This was done at the mint where it was made, whatever garage it was made in. And they do this to help the coins not look obviously bad. So I'm not really sure what process they used to tone this down, but I'm guessing heat was a part of it. But that's the 09S from the set, no V.D.B. And then the 09S V.D.B from the set is this right here. And so they did a relatively good job with the design itself. I mean, he's not, not smiling like he's just peed his pants or something. It's the V.D.B kind of looks horrible on this one. It's a little too sharp. So let's look at the mint mark on this one up close.
Real quick, can you put that last coin back up? There's one other thing that I want to, and we talked about this just before we went live. Can you explain
The reverse
one?
Yeah. The reverse. You talking about the N on the reverse?
Yes, sir.
Let me do it this way. First of all, what I'll do is I'll show you this coin here. Or I generally prefer to refer to these as pieces because they aren't really coins. Coins are minted at a mint. These are struck pieces. But I'm going to show you this. I'm kind of I'm a little bit low on screen real estate here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my other camera and actually show you. It's a little bit small, but bear with me here. This is the reverse of 1909. This is the early reverse. And then this is the late reverse. Now I'll teach you the difference between them first, and then I'll tell you why. See this right here? Look at the really soft. Can you see that? That really soft edge to the inside of the N. And then here you have a really sharp point on the inside of the N.
If you want to send me this photo, I can pull it up on my end. It's kind of, the image is kind of grainy on your side.
Okay. Sure. Let me do that.
And thank you, Paula, for correcting me. I said N in one, but it's actually the N in United. I said that wrong.
How about this? Is that better?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you. And Joe McBride said, Frosty, let Chuck know. Thank you for teaching me from day one. He's a great teacher, and I'm always still learning.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate that, Joe. Okay, so if we look here, you'll see that it's almost like the inside corners of the N were not fully developed. That's kind of what it looks like. And if you look around, you'll also notice that all of the other corners, inside and outside on these letters, appear to be rounded off. They don't look squared off and nice and neat. Whereas now I'm going to center this again so you can look at that N. Whereas if you look at this one, you'll see that the N is really sharp on the inside and it's very well defined. It looks like somebody took their time making this engraving. And this is a re-engraved or a different reverse design than the one above. And these are known to have a master die double that shows it's either a master die or a working hub. I think it's a working hub double that has both designs on one coin, which by being two different designs makes it a double die. But you can see that the details on this one are very squared off, very neat. Now, the reason I was telling you about this is this top design right here. Every single real 1909S V.D.B Lincoln Cent has this reverse design. Not one of them has this reverse design. Now, that becomes important because that's another very, very important clue for you to tell whether your coin is real or not, or whether it's an altered coin. Sometimes your altered coins will actually have the wrong reverse. Now, I'll go back to one of the altered coins that I showed earlier and show you that we have that V.D.B reverse. Now, this is a real V.D.B Lincoln Cent, but look at that N. It's the wrong one. So that's another thing that'll tell you whether or not you've got the correct N or not, whether you've got the correct coin or not. 09S V.D.B, you've always got the rounded insides to the N. So that's the altered one. Now I'll show you this fake. Trying to keep everything together. Okay, here we go. This one is altogether counterfeit. It's not real. Look at all the puck marks in it and how soft everything is except the V.D.B, which is, it looks like a third grader wrote that, but it also has humongous dots, unlike the real thing.
Yeah, I was about to say those dots are, if you miss that,
yeah, right?
They should be dots, not big old blobs of metal.
But it looks like this coin's been sandblasted. And the reason it looks like the coin's been sandblasted is because the hub that created the die that made this coin was sandblasted. And so all these little marks are not marks on the coin. They're marks on the die. So there's a whole bunch of little pickle marks on the die that came through on the coin. But you can see, again, you've got the wrong style of N on there. So not only did they get the wrong reverse, but they also added the V.D.B to the reverse, which really kind of hurts the overall attempt, you might say, at making what would look like a real coin. So that's the fake V.D.B that comes out of this set of coins, and not one single coin in the set is real. Let's see, that's all the 09s I'm going to show, unless somebody needs more. If somebody needs something or has a question. Good morning, CM Silver. If anybody has a question regarding any of these, you can let me know, and just be sure you tag Frostbite in there, because I am not necessarily 100% watching everything. Now, I told you this set is a complete set. It's not really a complete set. I have to digress on that. There is one problem with this set, and I'll show you that problem right now. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but see if I can find it here. There we go. The set does not contain a 1922D Lincoln Cent. It has the 22 plain, but it doesn't have a 22D. As you know, Denver minted all of the Lincoln Cents in 1909, or you may not know, but I'm telling you now, Denver minted all of the Lincoln Cents in 1922. And this is where they really messed up. That is a 1922S Lincoln Cent. Those don't exist. So they really kind of messed up and put the wrong mint mark on this coin. But this is, again, it's a fake coin. It's altogether counterfeit. Here's the reverse on it. Doesn't look too bad. But the obverse is pretty obviously wrong. And the S has a little die crack on it, or a little die chip, and it makes it a little more difficult to tell what it is, but I'll bring it up over here and show it to you. It's obviously an S. And It obviously shouldn't be. So that's kind of interesting, I think.
So just real quick, the
Yes.
22, it looks like the second two is farther to the right
Uh-huh.
than you would see on the normal 1922. Is that close or is that not?
It's relatively close. I think what they did to make these was they actually cast these from original coins. So somehow they got a hold of a set of coins and they started playing and started making dies. And I think some of this is from real coins. And you can generally tell the difference pretty easily by the mouth in the design. This one, he's not smiling. He doesn't have that shitty grin. And
Yeah.
So with this, it looks more like a real one, which tells you that this was probably cast off of a real coin. And I would say it was probably cast from a 22D. Why they turned this mint, you can see how the mint mark is a lot sharper than the other areas around it. That's because the mint mark was actually added into this die. So this particular die had its own little mint mark in it. So this could be something they're not even making today. Somebody could have corrected them. They went back, changed it to a D mint mark, and now they're giving out D mint marks. But when I bought this set a couple of years back, this particular coin came as an S mint mark, and I just laughed. I thought that was kind of cute, right? Now, I tell you, I bought this. Yes, I did. I only support the Chinese in an effort to make an attempt to tell the world about what they're making for us. So I want to show the beautiful quality of their art and show you what they make and how they make it. And in order for me to do that, I couldn't just tell them that's what I was doing and I would like to borrow a set. I had to buy it. And I think I paid around $80 for the entire set. So it was a little expensive, but you do things in the name of education. And so that's what I did. Now, about weight on these, a lot of people tell you, well, if you think you got a fake coin, weigh it. That's great when you're talking about silver or other valuable metals. But when you're talking about Lincoln cents and Indians and basically any copper, large cents, half cents, any of that, the weight is usually going to be dead on. And the reason is because finding the planchets is not difficult to do, and making planchets is not difficult to do in pure copper or in bronze like Lincoln cents are. Thus, the weight is going to be very close, if not exact, to the real deal. So that's not going to help you.
So Ringmaster Ray said that the S mint mark on that coin was for the full of S mint.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly. That's kind of funny, actually. I'm going to move on now. I'll show you another coin. I've had this one for a long time. It's going through a dealer's box at a coin show in Kansas and ran into this coin and thought it was so cute. I had to tell him, A, it's not real, and B, and so it took me some coercion to first talk him into understanding that it wasn't real, but then to talk him way down on his price so I could actually end up with it. And here it is. that surface, you see how proof-like that surface looks? That's like an amazing 1911S, but it's not even real. But this is a die-struck counterfeit. It is a very nice die-struck counterfeit with a relatively new die, as is evidenced by the fact that both sides are nearly proof-like. But he wanted like $700 for this, and I talked him down to $50. So I got this for $50. I thought it was worth $50 to show people what a fake 11S looks like. But one of the things that the best tell on this, again, the best tell is going to be the mint mark. Mint mark on 1911S should look exactly like the mint mark on 1909S. And this obviously does not. It also has a lot of tooling marks. You can see these tooling marks here. There's a lot of slight off steps on the design itself. It has a lot of engraving or tool marks in the die
Yeah,
in
can
the
you
face.
leave that there for just a moment? So
Absolutely.
we have a couple people that are fairly new. So Coach's Magic is pretty much brand new to collecting.
Okay.
So, so let's quantify what you're talking about when you mention tooling marks.
Okay. If you can imagine, a coin is the exact negative impression of the die. So the die that makes the coins, if you put a scratch in that die has a scratch that's recessed. When you mint the coin, that scratch is going to come out as a positive relief or a standing out line on the coin. And that's what these are. These lines are actually raised. They're raised all over the face, which means that someone took some sort of a sharp instrument and scratched all over the face area in the die. And that put little recessed marks in the die, which came out raised on the coin. Now, if you have scratches on a coin, of course, are going to be recessed on the coin. And so the only way that you're going to have recessed lines on a coin is if one of the positives, either the coin itself or the hub that made the die, is going to have scratches in it. And those are, I guess, are things that need to be educated. When they initially made the design onto the die, there are steps prior to that before you get the die. And one of those steps is called a working hub. A hub is a positive impression. So if you looked at a hub, it would look just like a coin, only it's on a steel bar. And the die is the result of the hub being struck into a piece of steel. The die is reversed. Everything is reversed on the die from where you would expect it to be, so that when you mint the coins come back out in forward or positive relief. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear and make sure that he understood, because we say these things all the time, so we know what we're talking about.
Right.
But I do know that we have some fairly
And
new people in chat, so I wanted to make sure that we elaborate on some of those key items.
this having been my chief language of spoken interest for about 40 years now, I tend to forget that other people don't necessarily speak my language. So it's good to have a reminder once in a while.
Yeah, Coach, that's a great summation. Scratches should be recessed, not protruding. Makes
Yes.
perfect sense. Yeah. Great summation. It helps me understand. Talkbacks are one of the best things that you can do. So if you, and
Right.
we do this in the military, right?
Yes.
Somebody says something, you say it back in the way you understand. So that's perfect. I just wanted to make sure we had that. And you asked me as we go through if there's a question or clarification that needs to be made, to let you know. So I appreciate you doing that.
I'm going to weigh this one. I don't have a camera showing on my scale, so I'll just have to tell you what it weighs. I think this one's quite a bit off. And that was another way I proved. Nope, it's 3.05 grams. And anything above 3 grams and below 3.2 grams is pretty much normal. So it's normal weight, which most of these are going to be normal weight. The edges on this feel razor sharp, like a proof coin. And so this almost, I mean, it would look like, and he even said it when I bought the coin. He said, I thought that was weird because it looked like a proof coin and it felt like a proof coin, but it's of course not. It's just altogether fake. But that was an interesting one. Counterfeit 1911S. Let's see. Trying to put some of this back as I go along. Hey, you want to see a 14D? I'm sure. This one is a counterfeit 1914D, which means that it's more or less minted properly. It looks more or less like the real deal. And I'll show you something that isn't at all. But there's what the obverse, and here's the reverse. There's not any design tellings on these because once 1909 was over, that first design reverse that's used on the 09S V.D.B was typically not used beyond that. So the second reverse, the one with the sharp insides to the end, is going to be on 90% or 99% of all Lincoln cents, and it will be on pretty much all these. But see that little cut in the end right there? You don't see that on a real coin. So
We're
that's
not seeing
one.
that camera, Chuck.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're not. You're right. I have to do this first.
There you go.
That little cut in the right side of the end, you're not going to see that on a real coin. That's it's obviously not a mark placed there. I'm going to see if I can zoom in on this a little bit more. It's obviously not a mark that was placed there through circulation or through any other means. It's very how would you say it? It's like really well defined. It looks like a piece of the cake batter fell out. And this was prior to minting the coin. So this is something that came from, I'm going to let you guess for a second, a positive relief item. So this came from the hub. And the reason I know that is because if this were in the die, it would be an obvious mark. This isn't really a mark. It looks like part of the engraving fell apart. And also, for those of you who are already talking about it, here is the mint mark, which is totally wrong for a 1914D. It's not just in the position of the mint mark, but also the way the mint mark looks. Completely wrong for 1914. I'm going to bring up a 1914D image. If I can find one here real quick.
It almost looks like the mint mark was poured on there.
It looks like it's probably dug into the die with a Dremel tool because everything looks round.
Yeah.
Everything looks like it was routed into it, basically, if you know what a router is.
Kind of like what you would see if you did welding.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm actually going to work on trying to bring up a nice PCGS image of the mint mark because it's kind of important that you know what the mint mark is supposed to look like.
So I have a quick question for you. This
Sure.
is a little deviation from that. On
Okay.
the inside of the 9, you have
This up
that
here?
little, yep.
I don't really know exactly what caused that, but you're going to find stuff like that all over this piece because it's not a real coin.
Copy.
Let me. I'm sure PCGS doesn't mind. In the name of education, they don't mind me bringing this up and showing you. But if you look at the mint marks on these coins, and it's the best I can do right now in a quick hurry. But the mint marks, the inside part of the mint mark actually looks like a little triangle. It's a straight edge on the left side, and then it has a point on the right side. And this is the way the first D-mint mark for Lincoln Cents looked. And they used it from 1911 until 1930, I believe. But the 1914D is included in there. There's a few things that'll help you with this. The position of the mint mark is important. There were 5 different, I think 5 different positions for 1914D. And all of these images basically show you the same thing. I'll bring this down so we can try to see how do I do this? There was a way, and I don't remember what that way was, that I can get the picture to show bigger. This is a MS-66.
I'm on mute. Down. Hold your control key down, and then hit the up button or the plus button, or roll the roller on your mouse up.
Okay, that doesn't work for the image itself.
Okay.
I actually have to download the image. So let's do that. And then now I can zoom in on the image. Certain things are beloved and work wonderfully with computers. Other things just need to be changed. But here we go. Okay. There's a picture of the D-mint mark for you. Now, what I'm going to attempt to do is over here in this stray area, I'm going to bring up the D-mint mark on this fake coin. Now you can obviously see that they're very different from one another. It's my stream. This isn't my stream, Farm Dog. That's why. I still have to figure out what's going on with my stream. But
I
this
think
is actually Farm Dog stream. I mean,
you're
not Farm Dog, Frosties. Yeah.
you're still on the free version of StreamYard, right?
Yes.
So I think when you get that up, that better version where you're
Uh-huh.
able to stream, because right now you're streaming at 720p. I think it's just the quality of the share you have on your end. I think once you do the full version, then you should be able to stream at a better rate.
Okay. Well, but I've got both these up. The real one's on the left and the fake one is on the right. And you can see that there's an obvious difference between them. And I'm sorry about the shakiness, but every time I touch my desk, my microscope kind of gives me a little shake. So if you want me to continue, I'll have to have a little bit of shake. But anyhow, I'll pull this down and take the 14D out of the way. And I'm going to show you something else about a 1914D that well, you're going to want to know. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. I have a few of these, and for some reason, they always tend to escape me. Some of the ones I have are better than others. Well, what did I do with those? I guess I don't have one right now. It would be a 1944D that's been turned into a 1914D. And I see a lot of these, but I don't happen to have one on me right now. Huh. I thought I had one in this book, but I don't. Let's see if I pulled one out. Maybe I pulled it out. No. So I don't have one to show you right now.
Yeah, so just a clarification, Jackalope, the only year that Philadelphia put a mint mark on a cent is 2017.
Yes.
Other than that, there is no mint mark on a Lincoln cent.
On a Philadelphia minted, including proofs.
Yes.
Yeah, and that goes to include all Philadelphia minted coins, all Philadelphia minted Lincoln cents. And the reason they did it was because that was the 225th anniversary of the United States Mint. So they wanted to do something to celebrate that. And they celebrated it by placing a mint mark on the Philadelphia coin. And the reason Philadelphia didn't use mint marks in the earlier days is because when the mint first opened in 1792, Philadelphia was the only mint. And then later, it was like the headquarters, the main mint. And they used mint marks to be able to tell how coins were circulating in different parts of the country. And so the mint marks were used to tell you where the coin was from. Well, there was no reason in putting a preview mark on something from the main mint. So they just left the main mint. They didn't use any mint marks. And that was true up until 1942. Was it 42 or 43? 42. When they made the first silver nickels, they used a mint mark, a large mint mark above the dome of the Monticello or Monticello on the back. I did learn that it's actually pronounced Monticello. I've been calling it Monticello all my life. And those coins were made that way to be able to tell the difference between silver and not silver. Here is another one. Am I on the? Yeah, I'm on the proper part. Now, those who have studied 1915 Lincoln cents to any degree will very quickly tell this isn't real. But for those who don't know the design that well, this is a fake 1915S. And the fakeness is made pretty obvious by the fact that the design looks kind of childlike. It looks something like I would do. It's not very finely done. There's no squared off edges to anything. Everything kind of looks like it was struck through a chocolate bar. And we have a pretty heavy double die up here on the upper part of the design, which kind of leads you to think, I'd never heard of that. Well, it's because they don't exist. But you can see the E up here is very nasty double. There's a lot of doubling on the T, R, U, and some on the S here, and then it just kind of goes away. It's a very localized thing, but there's heavy doubling on parts of the model. And then the reverse, once again, just a very loosely done reverse that doesn't quite look sharp enough to be a real coin. And we once again have some pretty heavy doubling on this reverse here. This doubling is what we call class 6 distended hub doubling, which can actually happen on any struck piece. It doesn't have to be on a Lincoln cent or a specific coin. But you notice how this bottom of the U right here is really, really thick. It's a lot thicker than the two stems. And then you follow that through, and you can actually see it here on the edge of the wheat lines. And that is distension, which means that the shape of the hub that created the die to begin with was a little bit different than the shape of the hub that finished the die. They used two different hubs, or they burned the die and it overstretched when they annealed the die for a second impression. So this is a multiple hubbed die, which is interesting enough. All of the ones with double dies are multiple hub dies. Multiple hubbed meaning the positive impression that created the negative impression in the die was used more than once to sharpen the design. And they did that with Lincoln cents. Lincoln cent dies are usually hubbed anywhere between 4 and 7 times, depending on how many is necessary for that particular die. Dies go to an oven to be cooked and softened up so that the hub, the impression from the hub will sink deeper into the die, and then eventually they have a full design. But the first couple of hubbings on any coin from the multiple hubbing process is only going to create the center area of the design, and then it goes outward from there like spokes on a bicycle, where your last hubbings create these letters along the outside edge. And if the die warps or changes shape in between, you're going to get this type of doubling. Okay, so that's my 15S. Let's move on to, now we've talked about a counterfeit again. Well, let's talk about an altered coin. This is a 1945 S Lincoln cent. So it's a real coin. It's just not a real one. Notice that there's enough space to put the rest of the 4 in there. Plus you can see little bits of the 4. The little bits of the 4, meaning you can see part of the crosslet over here that was carved off. And you can actually see the angle of the original 4 was right here. But they did a pretty decent job of carving this one down and aging the coin. Now, why would you make a 15S from a 45S? Real good question. But this is a real 1945S Lincoln cent. And they actually thought to kind of try to remove the initials. You can see some tooling marks down there, but you can still see the initials, V.D.B. Another important part to this is that 1915 Lincoln cents did not have initials down here. They dropped that. They actually dropped the initials off the reverse of the Lincoln cent in 1909, obviously. And the initials did not return to the Lincoln cent until 1918. And they returned to the bottom of the bust down here, where they actually reside today. So any coin from 1910 through 1917 will not have initials at the bottom of the bust. So if you can see initials down there on a later dated, on an early date coin, you got one that's been altered or fake. So that's your 1915S alteration. So they made alterations of a whole bunch of different coins. Pretty much anybody can make an alteration. Now, we would have to ask sometimes why, but maybe it's for practice. I'm not exactly sure what to tell you about that, but this one is also an alteration. This was a 1948 Lincoln cent. Why they would turn it into a 1918, I have no idea. Yeah, this one, they turned a 3-cent coin into a 5-cent coin. So the reasons for this stuff, I have no idea. Sometimes they just do it for practice or just do it for kicks. Or maybe somebody who was a tool maker did this because they couldn't find a 1918. do not
So
know.
real quick, Brown Sugar, you
Yeah.
said thank you because I'm lost. Can you put in chat and clarify where you're lost at, and we can make sure that we do some more clarification. Sorry, Chuck, didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
If you've got any questions, just ask the questions. We'll get to them.
Coin Junkie's like, what a show. Thanks, Frostbite and Chuck.
Let's see. Next up, how about a really gimpy looking 1922 No D? Now, this will show you a little bit more what we were talking about earlier with the 2. This actually, they did a pretty decent job of faking the 2 on this one. Because on the real 1922 No D, the 1 and the 9 will be really bold and ugly looking, and then the last 2 will be really sharp and really small. But the big difference is, A, you're not going to have a bright red coin, usually. And B, it's not going to look like it was made out of Mason cinder block. It's just got little pits and hollows all over it, little breaks and color clashes and all kinds of weird stuff. It's like, I think this right here is a little color clash where the edge of the design actually clashed into the regular design, and you've got a bit that's it's actually raised right there. And so this is a fake 1922. We look on the reverse side, and we've got, this is a very interesting coin right here, or interesting piece. Now, I want you to look carefully at the bottom area of this wheat. You can actually see part of the bottom of another wheat right here. So this is like a really widespread double die. And that manifests itself very well. And right here, you see, right, let me bring it down a little bit. I keep forgetting that my screen looks a little different from yours. But this right here is an S from Pluribus. So it's doubled right over here. You're not going to see this on a real coin. They would take care of stuff like this. There's a P of Pluribus and an E of Pluribus. E is right over the dot. So it's right here. There's an E and there's part of the P over here. And so doubling like that will occur on the fake coins, on the counterfeit coins, simply because they just don't care enough to make it straight up, or they don't have the technology to be sure that they're not doing it this way. And so it comes out like this. And then on the obverse side, I believe there's some doubling on this one. I thought there was, maybe. No, there's no doubling on this one. There's a different coin I'm thinking about. But your overall takeaway on this is going to be a really grainy, ugly looking design that's not sharp and doesn't have sharp edges on anything. And then your other takeaway is going to be, it doesn't look right. And that would be, after some experience, you'll understand what you're looking at. And the other takeaway is to look for odd mint marks, odd design features, things that don't appear to be correct and proper. 1924D is one that's fast becoming another one of the keys. It's actually a semi-key. It's been semi-key for many years, but they're becoming more valuable. This one is a little bit too crisp. And that doubling around the 9 looks like Longacre doubling. Well, that's pretty much what it is. Longacre doubling is a bit of die wear that has an odd form, an odd shape. And the reason it's called Longacre doubling is because most of the coins designed by James Barton Longacre back in the 1840s were coins that came out with this form of doubling on them. It's a machine doubling style. The big thing to take away on that doubling is to notice that it goes all the way around the letter, whereas true hub doubling will not. But this is, once again, it's a relatively soft looking design, except in the areas that really count. And then the areas that really count, they did a very horrible job of repeating the real thing. This doesn't look anything like a real 1924D. The real 1924D, see if I can bring up a picture of one of those. It has a, well, I'll just show you. The design on the 4 is very different. The design on the 2 is very different. I'll bring this up on PCGS website. You guys all have access to this on the PCGS website, which is why I'm using this. So you guys can see exactly what I see. There won't be any question. Let me see, download the picture here real quick. And then I'll bring it over into screen here just a minute and get this set straight first. Some things I can move with my cursor. Some things I have to use the scroll bars. Here we go. That's a real 1924D right there. Now, let me zoom out on this. How about zoom out, Chuck? Here we go. And okay, so you can barely see it over there. Let me shrink this down just a little bit to make it easier to view. I got so little real estate to deal with here. Doing the best I can with it. But there you go. There's a look at the entire date and mint mark on both. Now, the mint mark obviously is the wrong kind. Again, because they were still using the same mint mark as on the 1914D, inside of your D here will have a triangle shape. It's pointed on the right side and it's straight on the left side. And with the fake here, obviously, it's a very strange looking D. It looks more like a 1985 D than it does a 1924 D. But then the actual design elements in the date are they're too thin, they're too sharp, and they don't look exactly the same. I mean, your crosslet on the 4 is very different.
They almost look like subscript.
Right. It looks. It's very strange that I'm thinking it might have been punched by some sort of a tool rather than carved, because that 2 just looks too perfectly round. It just looks like it had some sort of a metal punch that had the letters on it, and they decided, well, let's punch this and make it look real. And all they did was mess it up worse. But see the rest, how like Liberty is not so strong. It's not so sharp, but the date is. It's just weird. So this tells you, okay, well, this is probably a hub or a master that they use to counterfeit a bunch of different stuff. And this is just one result of what would be many, because it actually looks like the date was added to the die itself, which is not something you would do at the U.S. Mint. But here's the reverse of that coin. Not a whole lot here. It's going to tell you this is fake, not just by immediate observation, other than the fact that there's little tooling marks and, again, pitting all over this die. Little bits of pitting. So that makes that one pretty obviously off. So that's 24D. Most of what I see in 24D is counterfeit, not altered, which that, again, I guess you can't really get anything that has something close enough to a 2-4 in the date unless you do a 24 plain and add a D mint mark to it. I'm not really sure. I don't know why they did that. But you won't see very many altered 24Ds. They'll mostly be counterfeits. Here's another one. This is a counterfeit here. And if I get it turned just right, you can see some elements on here. Let me see if I can get it brought in a little brighter, because they're there. It's a matter of being able to see them. If you look, let me bring this down just a little bit. If you look right here, you'll see a little raised bar, and there's another little raised bar right there. And then there's a point right here and a little raised line right there. And what you're looking at is the back edge of a U and an M that was doubled into this die real widely. So it's almost half space of a letter. Not something you would see at the U.S. Mint, but strangely enough, you'll see it at whatever mint made this. And then you got a whole bunch of raised puck marks from rust on the die right here. So the die was pitted, and when it struck the coin, it put those pits all over the coin, except in reverse relief, which means that they're raised on the coin. What is this coin, pray tell? Well, it's a wheat cent. We know that. Here's another area of rust on the die. So they didn't take very good care of their dies. They weren't doing a wonderful job of trying to fool people who have ever really looked at any of these coins before. But this one's another one of the key dates. 1931S. And there's not a lot wrong with the obverse except those pit marks. All those little raised bumps that you see in and around the lettering and out in the field. You're not going to see that on a real Lincoln cent. And other minor things like the bottom tail of the 3 is just way too long. The date is a little off and the 3 is raised up high. That's normal. That you can't use that because a real 31S is going to have a raised 3 like this. That's part of the tell. That if you put a straight line across the 1, 9 and the 1, the 3 is going to stand up above it. That's same as a real 31S. Let me bring up a 31S. Again, I'll use PCGS and their website. This is it's PCGS.com/coinfacts. They've got a lot of information about Lincoln cents on here. And especially their images. Their images are pretty fantastic. Can't easily be redone by anybody because these coins are some of the highest graded coins on the market. And so here is a real 1931S. You can see how that 3 is raised up above the level of the tops of the 1, the 9, and the 1. So part of getting to know coins is knowing what the real thing looks like. In fact, that's what they do at banks when they're training their tellers. They train tellers. Let me get this back in here. I can't do that now. Yeah, I can. Here we go. A little bit of steering issue with my browser. It's not every day that I try to do this. There we go. So you can see your obvious difference in the mint mark and in the 3 there. But the 3 is raised above like it should be. And what they do with tellers at banks is they don't train you by showing you a bunch of counterfeit money. They train you by having you handle a lot of real money. So anytime you have a counterfeit, it's going to look or feel different. And so I've kind of taken that direction with what I do. And since most of your counterfeits are going to be higher grade coins, using a VG 1931S would not be a really good tool in being able to tell the difference between this and the real thing. Using higher grade is going to help you in seeing what you're doing. And well, because 1931Ss are not highly common, or 1909S V.D.Bs or 22 planes, you go to some place where they do have images of them, and that's PCGS. Most of the fake 31Ss that I have seen look very close to this. Not exactly, but very close to this. Some of them are absolutely horrendous, and some of them are pretty decent. This one's a pretty decent fake. I bought this in a roll of 1931S Lincoln cents, and there were actually 3 fakes in the roll. I went back to the dealer, and he made that right. But they were included in a real tube full of 1931S Lincoln cents. And yes, I have owned a tube full of 1931S. Let's see. Let me get to the 31S that belongs in my fake set so I can show it to you. This is part of the Chinese counterfeit fake set. Now, most of these are Chinese make, but I know very well that this set that I have are all Chinese make because they come from Alibaba. So right here, you'll see your mint mark looks more or less correct. Your date looks more or less correct. The only problem with this one is, again, all the little tiny pit marks, all the little tiny raised areas in the metal. And on this particular one, you once again go back to using that hub that has a lot of doubling in trust. So they use the same design over and over again to make different dies to make different years. So if you know some of the markers on the fakes, then that'll help you in determining another one that's a fake, regardless of the date or mint mark. So that doubling in trust comes in to be an important feature of some of these. Now, there's a number of different little designs that they used on the counterfeit set of Lincoln Cents, and some of them are far more obvious as being fake than others. It's almost like they created them as an afterthought. I'll go through a few of these coins until I hit one, because I'm not sure which ones are and are not. I think this might be one of them. This is the 31D in the same set. No, this one's made more like that 24D was. So you've got rather soft areas in the design, and then this one little spot called the date and mint mark that are extremely sharp and extremely well done. So this is probably, if we went back and we looked and we really looked for markers, we'd probably find this to be the same hub as the 1924D that I showed you earlier, because it looks like it was made the same way. This one's been polished, so it's been sanded and then retoned, and that was just to make it look more real. No other good reason, I don't think.
So Chuck, for those people that are new, can you put that coin back up and let them
Sure.
know what you're actually looking at when you talk about, obviously you see the striations in
Right.
the but kind of show them exactly what you're talking, so they have a good reference point.
Sure. So they're abrasions. You can see these abrasion marks look like sanding marks, and they're all little lines, little tiny lines. And as I look at this, these are actually raised lines on the coin, and they're sand marks on the die itself. So the die was sanded before they made the coins. A couple of ways I can tell. When you sand a coin, you're going to hit the high edges, the high parts first. The same thing will happen when you sand a die, but it's going to be the low parts on the coin because it's the high parts on the die. And if you look at this little mark right here, this little mark of mine, let me move it over so you can see it real easily. This little mark right here goes underneath the one and comes back out right here. Now, if this was sanding on the coin, it would go right over the one. But because it hits underneath the one, then that had to have been placed on the die and not on the coin itself. And so this is a very bad example of sanding a die. Another thing, the nose, the front of the nose and the front of the cheek up here are not affected by those marks, but this area in the recess of the nose matches the scratches that you see out here in the field. So obviously it was something pretty hard and pretty straight that they used to sand this, like an emery board or something, that skipped this part of the nose because it was sunken down because it's part of the die, and it hit the higher points. And then this is actually a scratch on the coin. So that would be sunken in on the coin, raised, sunken in on the coin. And then these are raised on the coin. This mark here is raised. You can kind of see that also. If I bring it up enough in magnification, you can kind of see how the shadow of that line falls below, and it's lit on the top. Like this one, it's lit on the top, and there's shadow below. There's a lit on the top, shadow below. Well, my lighting is coming from the top. And so because my lighting is coming from the top, it's going to put light on the top of everything, like the top of the chin versus the bottom of the chin. So if you look at the little lines, you can tell if they're raised or sunken in by figuring out which side is shadowed.
That's a great example. Another place that's important to look at is when you're looking at coins that are incuse.
Yes.
If it looks like, if something is incuse, meaning that, so you picture a wave, right? You have the crest of a wave, which is, where it comes above the surface of the coin, where Incuse is the trough of the wave. If it looks like it goes underneath, but it's indented in, that's a surface scratch, right? It's actually not in because it looks like it's below the Incuse, which makes the Incuse look raised, right?
Yes, exactly. I'm going to show you an Incuse coin because some people may not know what Incuse means. Good example of an Incuse coin right here. The $5 Indian. This is a 1909 $5 Indian. The nose, the edge of the nose here. I'm going to have to download this one to blow it up.
Boom.
Let's just get all kinds of images on our computer.
Well, and again, I really appreciate you being here and going through this stuff and sharing your counterfeit collection. I think the resource, just being able to see these things over and over and over again and have people get familiar with seeing them is really going to be a good tool. And they can always go back and reference this at any point.
Absolutely. I enjoy doing this. So it's my pleasure to be here. If you look here, you can see that there's a trench between the chin and the field of the coin. The field is the negative space. That's because this negative space is actually higher up on the coin than the chin and other parts of the design. So this is what's called an incuse design. If you look at the digits of the date, it makes it a little more obvious that the initials, the designer's initials, are incuse on the coin. You can see the shadow on the tops of the letters, and this lighting comes from above. And that's Bela Leon Pratt. That's the guy's name who designed that. And the 9 here, you can see that this is in shadow. So that's not a raised letter. That's actually a sunken letter. And all of these letters, all of the design is actually sunken into. And all of the field, all this negative space that you see is raised on the coin. So that's incuse. Basically opposite what you would normally be used to looking at. Let's see. Let me go ahead and save this in a good spot. And we'll move on to another coin. So this is the 31D out of my fake Chinese set. Let's see. What else do I have here?
So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and step away for just a few moments. So if Paula or one of my other mods, if there are any questions, if you could tag me in it and I'll come back and reference it. I should be back in just about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not 100% good at keeping an eyeball on the chat while I'm doing this. So if you ask a question and I don't happen to answer it, I would be happy to answer it if someone brings it to my attention. Here's something else for you. How about a 1955 double die? Now, this is what I call the clown design, because it looks more like he's been on drugs for a while than the real Lincoln. I mean, this doesn't look anything like a real Lincoln cent if you have been around Lincolns for any length of time. But the doubling can actually fool a few people here and there. This isn't the best double die fake, but it's there nonetheless. It's interesting. All of these are interesting. Interesting as to how they made them, why they made them, and what methods they go by in creating these. This actually looks more real. The reverse does. I mean, they got the reverse a lot better than they got the obverse. So there is that. You want to look at some more altered coins? I've got a number of them. Why they made some of these, I have no idea. I have better things to do, but somebody has spent a lot of time. Oh, to get to it before we move on, I just wanted to be sure that his title of the show was With Reality. Here is an actual fake 1958D Lincoln cent. It's pretty obvious that it's fake, but this is the one that came with the Chinese set. And here's the reverse. Very, very lightly hubbed die. You could tell because the L in pluribus almost gone altogether, but a lot of pluribus is really weak. Okay. Let's see. A couple of altered. Looking through a whole 2 pages full of 1909 V.D.B fakes. I mark all my stuff so I know exactly what I'm looking at, because I don't want to be fooled by my own collection. So I'll do this. Altered. This is a 1944P turned into a 1914P. Why? Because it can. But here's what this looks like. You can see, obviously, the 4 has been carved. There's way too much space there to the 1, but it is a real coin. Just that color on the right side of the coin just doesn't look right. And it's because it's been monkeyed with and then retoned. The reverse actually looks like a very normal worn wheat cent. But if I put it under the other scope, you can see that the date has obviously been carved on pretty heavily. But I guess they either didn't have a 1944D that day, or they really intended on making a dollar coin out of a 3-cent coin. But there's an altered 1914 from a 1944. And to go with that, let's see, I have 2 1914 Philadelphia alterations from 44. And then I've got this one, which is a San Francisco alteration. So I've got all 3. I've got 14 PDNS all altered. Pretty obvious that they did this. I mean, I don't think they were really trying to fool anybody. But that's a 44S turned into a 14S. Not only do you have totally the wrong mint mark style, but you've got, well, it looks like trench marks cut all over the coin, and a very waney looking, heavily spaced 1. But it's, they even used a worn coin. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure that this isn't very far off of what the coin looked like when they did this. So they did it to a worn coin. So somebody with a bag of wheat pennies and a pocket knife had some fun. It wasn't really a pocket knife, but sounds funny anyway. And again, I believe this was by the same artist. This is a 1948D turned into, yes, you guessed it, a 1918D. They did a little better with their carving lines, but when they did, they carved off the front of his lips, and now he's pursing his lips, and his chin has shrunk quite heavily. He actually kind of looks like a different person altogether. His nose and his chin are way too small now. But given this was a real ink and cent, it's and you notice again, the style of D for 1918 should be that kind that's got the triangle shaped inside to the D. So this over here should be a point, and it's not, because, well, this is normal for a 48D. The 43s, I will show you probably one of my best counterfeit coins. And it's one that is a very nice one. This is a 3.08 gram bronze planchet. And they minted it into a 1943D. Now this looks pretty good. This is probably one of the closer fakes to reality I've ever seen. And of course, you've got a lot of the little problems. You've got the little puck marks in the die that ended up raised on the coin that you just won't see on a real coin. But the date and the mint mark are actually relatively close to the real thing. And given that this is a 3.1 gram bronze piece, your design features and everything are going to be the only thing you'll be able to tell that it's fake, because the mint mark itself and the date, the design, and everything are pretty close. The weight is dead on. You notice you have a little die scratch right out here. This is another one of the features that you'll find on some of these faked coins from this particular set, is that they have the same die markers across dies, because those markers were placed into the master die that they use to create the different dates.
And that's actually common across counterfeiting multiple dates.
Yes.
Something that Jack Young talks about as well. Looking at, 4 or 5 years. A great example is the Henning nickel, right? You see the same die markers across 5 different years over 7 different year span. You're not going to have the same die scratches or the same die cracks or things of that nature.
Something that I didn't necessarily bother with was collecting up a bunch of the altered 1943 Lincoln cents that were colored or plated in metal to look like a bronze cent, because the simple magnet test that everyone is taught in the very beginning of their collecting works on all of those. Here's the 43S that I have. This is a bronze planchet. It does weigh about 3.1 grams, but you know, again, that the date looks very, very similar to that 1924S, and the rest of the design is soft. And so that will tell you this one's significantly struck through as well. That means that there was something sitting on top of the die when the coin was struck. In fact, this looks like part of a letter or something right here. It looks like part of an R or something. But anyhow, this area and this area here, there was something hard sitting on the die when the coin was struck, which indented the coin. And that happens on real coins. It happens more frequently on fake coins.
Do you think that would be something that was done purposefully, or do you think that was just incidental?
I'm sure it was incidental. Let's put it this way. It wasn't done on purpose, but it wasn't necessarily avoided on purpose either. So I think if it was there, it was there.
Gotcha.
And again, you see a lot of raised stuff. There's a little raised mark there. There's a raised mark here. There's another one there. You won't see that on real Lincoln cents. You won't see it on any real American coin.
Is it just me, or do we have on the reverse? We have a lot of the same weak spots. We have that AM, we have that I, the T in United. Is it not across many of these counterfeits? Is that not the same general weak spot on the reverse?
It is, but the problem with that is that it is also a chiefly common weak spot on real coins as well.
Okay.
This is when I just grabbed this off the desk. It's a real coin. I don't really exactly know why it's sitting on my desk, other than I have to have coins on my desk all the time so I can look like a crazy professor. But okay, there's a weak spot right up there. The top of the O is a common weak spot on wheat cents. And this is just a coin I grabbed off the desk. It's not for any given purpose. But if I flip the coin over and show you that exact same area on the other side, you'll see that that area is exactly opposite this high point on the shoulder. And so when these coins are minted with this design, which the counterfeit ones are minted with the same design basically as the real ones, so you're going to have the same problems. This is a high point, and it doesn't strike up very well when you don't use full pressure when you create the strike. And so the shoulder not striking up all the way doesn't necessarily show very well because it's a very high relief area. But this O is not quite as high relief, and it doesn't strike up quite as well, especially in a weaker strike. And so that's the same thing that you mentioned. This particular coin doesn't have that problem, but this area right down here is often not very well struck on the reverse of wheat cents, and that's because this is just opposite the area of the head and the ear and the jaw, which are very high relief areas. So when you think about what's weak on a coin and why is it weak, you have to really think of both sides of the design at once, because they were both created at once. They were both created at the same time. Pull up another, see if this one shows us anything. Okay, this is a real 1923S. This isn't going to show much because it's low grade. Not really sure why I even have this on my desk. I guess it's just there to pollute my desk. Okay, we can erase the last 20 seconds. Let's see, I showed you the 43S and I showed you the 43 plane, or 43D. Here's the 43 plane. Now this one feels weird. It feels off. It looks off. The design is horrible. You can see that Lincoln looks more like a quarterback than a president.
And that shit-eating grin's back.
Yeah, his grin is back.
It just looks so funky. I mean, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right, exactly. Now,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a whole lot of looking at the real coins to be able to tell something like this is fake. So, I mean, if you even so much as question, wait a minute, that doesn't quite look right, you're probably correct.
And look at the thickness in the 9 on that.
And here's your reverse, or what little of it actually struck. But again, you've got pits all over the coin. Those were probably rust spots or pits on the hub that created the die. You've got weak design, which means the die was not annealed properly for the design to actually sink into the die. And it's not very sharp. And that's because, well, it's fake. But the area of the 9, you say? How thick it is? There's a lot of things going on in this design that just aren't right. But yeah, that's a very telling sign right there. Is that your date is just really off. It's real thick. It's real strange looking.
Yeah, and there's no serifs. There's nothing added to it. It's
right.
Just it's way the font type is way off. Even for worn coin, it just doesn't look right.
Some doubling on this one. I'm not sure exactly. It's not strong enough to really see much about what happened up here, but there's something wrong with the design up there. It's doubled in some form or fashion. But the other part of doubling that I see, and once again, you can see lines all over this coin. These are actually sunken in on the coin. Oh, and something else I didn't ever notice. That looks like part of the date right there. Looks like part of a 9. You never know what you're going to find on these fake coins. It's kind of comical, actually. But then you can see some doubling there on the TY of Liberty that goes in cardinal direction to the southeast. That's actually what we would call offset hub doubling. The hub didn't twist or turn, it just moved. You can learn a lot about doubled dies just by looking at these fake coins, because they didn't care nearly as much as most world mints. And so this is where you're going to find your major doubled dies without it being necessarily on purpose. Let's see, something else. What's another one that's a more valuable coin that we need to look at?
All right, so Ringmaster Ray, you want a Lincoln cent. I'll send out a die variety to you.
Awesome.
Courtesies of Chuck, one of the ones that he sent me. But congratulations, Ray.
Very cool. Congrats, Ray. Now looky here. This is just another one I picked.
That's an attractive coin.
Yeah, that's a cartoon on a coin right there. Now, oddly enough, his face doesn't look that bad. The rest of the design, I mean, it's all pretty much there, mostly. Another struck through next to the T there. Anytime you see an indentation in a coin that has relatively sharp edges, like this does, and those edges don't look like a crater on a moon with raised edges, then you have likely got a struck through. The tell between a struck through and a hit on the coin, like this is a hit. See, all the edges are raised up, but the innermost part of it is sunken in. That's something that hit that coin real hard. It caused that. It moved the metal. But because it was being held in by the die at the time, what pit there is on here doesn't have any raised edges because the field of the die was holding those edges down and kept them from raising up. So because it doesn't have raised edges means that it was done while the die was in contact with the coin, which is struck through.
That's a great explanation.
Let's see. You learn a lot about minting, about die varieties, about errors, about how things work just by looking at fake coins. Because the quality control at these mints is, let's say, far lower than the quality control at like the United States Mint. So you'll find all kinds of quality, some good, some bad, mostly bad. Just another random coin I grabbed so we can look at it. It's a 39S. This is the extremely rare Chinese 1939S Class 4 double die obverse in the date. You can see that there's doubling all in the date in this, and that's not machine doubling. That is actually hubbing. It caused that. Machine doubling would be where the die was loose and the coin actually shook, or the die actually shook while the coin was being made, and it will shift the design a little bit. And that's not what this is. This is actually hubbed in like this, and then it was rehubbed and moved just a little bit. And the way you can tell that is that there's no downward shelf-like appearance. It's kind of hard to describe, but this area here is the 3 repeated. The other thing that you can tell this by is that the 3 is of apparent normal thickness all the way through. Now, you can't really tell very well because this is a fake and you don't know what a normal looks like. There's another struck through right there. So there's a lot of them on these coins. In fact, that looks like it struck through a dropped S mint mark right there. You see this? And this happens to be a fake of an S mint mark coin, so it could be a dropped S mint mark. Nope. Wrong size. Sorry. That is another tell right there about this being a double die. This is actually a tripled die. This is off. You have doubling on both sides of the letters that was actually caused by the hubbing process. So that's just a, do not try to adjust your set. We are in control. What you are seeing is actually fuzzy on the coin, not on your screen.
Well, the quality of your camera has cleared up a lot over the last 30 minutes.
Has it?
Yeah, I probably had some weather issues or something.
Okay.
But yeah, the quality of the cameras have cleared up a lot.
Well, it isn't the weather on this, and it's pretty calm outside, but it's cold and it's cloudy. It's nasty. I'm happy to be doing this rather than like mowing a yard or something. Being outside right now is not especially in my wheelhouse. Let's see. What else do I have here? Sometimes you'll end up with a counterfeit that is different, or you get 2 counterfeits and you find out that both of them were made in the same place. And that it can happen. Not always, but here's what I believe. I've never actually looked at this, but I can remember what they look like because I have one of those weird memories. And I think these 2 coins were minted in the same place using the same die. We're going to look at it, and I'll be able to help you out with this if it's true. There's a 24D. Remember seeing that?
Yes.
Here's another 24D. And I think these were minted at the same place. And here's how we can tell. We can use dye markers, and dye markers are a very common thing, but they're even more common on fake coins because they don't bother trying to clean any of them off. So here are some raised lines on the coin, which means that was in the dye. It looks like a wild animal scratch. There's 3 lines here. Looks like toenails. Scratched it. And let's go look over here. Oh, what do we have? We've got the exact same lines right there. So these 2 coins were minted in the same facility and probably at the same time. Let's look inside the N on the other coin right up here for little raised dots. And here's a little raised dot next to the I. So let's go look at this other one. This is not practiced, folks. We do have those, but we don't have the one next to the I. So still yet, we're looking at the same die. And that's because those marks had to have been in the die. They're not added to the coin because they're raised. You don't look at sunken in marks because, well, those likely won't be repeated. Here's another raised mark right next to the back of the collar toward the Y of Liberty. Now, you can use this method on real coins, but it's much easier on fake coins because the fake coins will have these marks much more often. But there's that. Now that I know that these were minted in the same facility from the same pair of dies. Is there any particular date mint mark that anybody else wants to see? Because you can't name a wheat cent that I can't show you except for 22D because mine has an S mint mark.
Which I think is hilarious.
Right?
So coaches asked the question, how common are these fakes? Is this something to be worried about when you're buying online or at a shop?
Now the 09S, V.D.Bs, the 14Ds, all the ones that are the very valuable coins, they are prolific. In fact, there's probably more fakes than there are real coins. With things such as a 1939S, it's going to be kind of scarce. You're not going to see a lot of those. It's mainly the ones that would be worth fooling somebody with that are the ones you're going to find faked more often. The bronze 43s, for instance, probably 99.999% of all the 1943 bronze Lincoln cents out there are fake or altered. There's a very, very small number, less than 3 dozen known from all 3 mints that are real. Yeah, so I would say with the key date coins, they're very common. If it's anything that I've got 220 pocket pages full of, it's common.
So one thing that I will add to that, Coach's Magic, is, and you'll hear me say this a lot on my streams, right? You'll hear it when Chuck is talking now. Whenever Chuck is dealing with something, it's really easy to say that, you know, if he's sending stuff out, obviously he's reviewed it. It's authentic, not a big deal. But have a trusted source. Know the places you buy this stuff from. If you're buying this stuff from Alibaba, it's very likely not real. If you're buying this stuff from eBay, there's a high propensity, unless you know the store you're buying it from, that it's not real. So for instance, there are people who have, and you don't sell on eBay anymore, Chuck, right?
I do.
You do. Okay. So for instance, if you want to buy something from Chuck can you put your eBay listing in the chat?
My eBay name is Coppercoins.
Then, okay, easy peasy. But if you're going to be buying stuff online, know your source. It's really important. So for instance, Adam and those folks, right? They're on Livecoin Q&A. They have sites. Blue Ridge Silver Hound does. Chuck has a site on there. Again, if you know your source, it's fine, but know your trusted sources. The other thing is if you're looking at something have your resources available. Look for those die markers. If you're looking for a 1909 SVDB, know that N in United. If you see one, even at a reputable coin shop, if you see one that has that full N, tell them, hey, you know what? From what I understand, this is supposed to be a shallow N, not a deep N, and we want to really look at this kind of stuff. So when you're going to buy certain things, and again, where a lot of people get caught into situations and issues is FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. So you have this opportunity to buy something, as all of a sudden you're buying on reactivity, you're buying on emotion. That's where people usually make that mistake. And so have a plan. If you're going to go buy a 1909S V.D.B, have a plan. Have your resources available. Know what you're looking at. Go to a reputable source. Don't do stuff willy-nilly on the fly. That's when you're going to get into trouble.
Very well said. I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to eBay. I don't know how to send someone to my store. I used to know the link. They changed it. And I'm on a page that shows my store, but it's an edit page, and I don't want to show that online. So
I'll pull it up real quick.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know how. Wish I did.
No, it's all good.
There's a lot of different things I do on my eBay store. If you see coins and license plates, it's probably me, because I'm just about the only person I know that does both. Jackalope, that's not a bad idea. If you buy an 09S V.D.B, you get it slabbed, or you get it from a very reputable source that has a full return guarantee. The other thing that you need to pay attention to, though, is if you're going to buy one that's slab, make sure you get it in a real slab, because the Chinese are pretty good at faking those. In fact, they're better at faking those than they are the coins. So just be sure that you're getting a real PCGS slab or a real
another
NGC
thing.
slab. Yeah.
Just because it's slab does not make it authentic. Know your slabs, right? So if you're looking at a PCGS holder and you look at the lower right-hand corner and you don't see the PCGS emblem, that's a tell. I have it's sitting around the corner, and I can grab it and show it if anybody's interested in seeing it. But I have a really nice PCGS slab with NGC stickers.
Oh, that's
so
that's probably not going to happen in real life, huh?
Yeah, no, it's never going to happen in real life. But again, you do really want to be careful. Just because it's slab does not mean it's authentic. And again, do your research, have your tools available to you. If you're buying it from a coin shop that you've, like, let's say you just go to a coin shop and you see something, you're like, oh my God, they have one and I want to buy it. Slow down. Look at it. Have them walk you through it. Look at some of the other slabs. Look at some of the stuff that they have. See if there's differences. Look at the lettering. Look at the centering of the slab itself. Look at if it has a CAC sticker, if it doesn't have a CAC sticker. Look at those items, and then enter the number into PCGS. And if it says that listing has been removed, it's a very good tell that there's a high likelihood that it could be a counterfeit, because when those things are reported, now I have one, you guys seen my 1907 Double Eagle, the Godden's gold piece that we reported to PCGS as fake. They've actually removed that particular listing, and it states that the item has been removed. If you see that, it's a pretty good tell that something is fake or something has been wrong with that and the item has been faked. So take your time. The biggest issue you're going to have is doing things reactive and buying stuff, and that FOMO is a real thing, and that can put you in a situation where you can really cause yourself some issue.
Not paying good enough attention the first time. Yes. Yes. You have to move a bunch of stuff, though. I've got duct cleaners here, so there's going to be people working up here.
Gotcha. No worries. We've only got about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm going to give
Yeah.
everybody a couple minutes to go ahead and get their coffee, go to the bathroom before they head
Okay,
on
yeah.
over to Coin Crew.
All right. I guess I'm going to need to go. I appreciate everybody's consistency with me here and showing up, and the questions that I've received. If anybody else wants to ask questions directly about coins, they can send me an email.
cdcoppercoins.com.
cd@coppercoins.com. That's me. And if you want to ask me any questions directly, if you're going to send images of coins, make sure that you can see what's going on with the coin before you send the picture, because once you send the picture, if you can't see it, I probably can't see it either. I'll do the best I can to answer whatever I'm asked, but come back and watch the show a few more times, because I think you're probably going to miss things during this live broadcast that you'll pick up on when you watch the show again. So make sure you bookmark it to come back and watch it again. I think this will be a pretty good tool. I'm going to continue working on trying to get this information published on my website so it makes much easier access. But I've got photographs of some of the coins, not all of them. If you want photographs of some of these coins, I can send the photographs to you. I mean, anything that we can do to help you learn more about what to look for and what to not buy. I'm in for helping however I can help. So that's my spiel.
Well, it's very much appreciated. And again, taking a couple hours out of your day to share that amazing collection. And again, the reason that he bought this is so that he could inform people. Chuck's huge on education and teaching people what not to look at, why not to buy certain things, and giving you all the information. So, Chuck, thank you so much for taking time to come alongside and spend the entire day on my stream to, enlighten people on this a fabulous counterfeit collection. So
Trust me, the pleasure is all mine. And I will let you know, just as a matter of anecdotal information, not one of these coins was bought as the real thing, and then I later found out it was fake. I knew they were all fake when I bought them.
oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. This is why you say you go against everything that you're about.
Exactly.
But it's in order to catalog and to share everything. So, folks, again, please, if you haven't gone over to Coppercoins, go check out Coppercoins tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. We got a reveal, right?
Yep. Reveal show is coming up tomorrow. You can get involved in actually owning coins that came directly from the Coppercoins vault by purchasing coins in the rolls that I'll be bringing up tomorrow for sale. And then Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central, we do an auction, and they don't just do pennies, people. Here's a 1913 nickel.
Ooh, pretty. That's good looking.
And anybody who knows their nickels knows this one probably can't be real. But you can see there's rust on the die on this one as well. Little pickle marks all over it, and it's not sharp. And all of these have the same issue. They've all got the same problems. It's just a matter of you being able to recognize those problems and understand what you're looking at when you see them.
Plus, if this were real, it'd probably be in Brian's collection.
Yeah. It wouldn't be in my collection. It's too valuable.
All right. Well, Chuck, thank you so much again. I appreciate you coming up. We'll definitely have you back up on the stream if you're more than game for it.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Go take care of the household chores, and I
Okay.
appreciate you. Thank you, sir, so much. We'll see you tomorrow at the reveal.
That's right. I appreciate it. Talk to you later.
Take care, brother. We'll see you. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we've got about 10 minutes before Coin Crew does their auction. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to go ahead, take a few moments. I know there was a ton of information, but if you go to Frostbite Coins and Collectibles, that Frostbite 1083, you go to my community page, you're going to see today's stream. You're going to see the links that were provided. Paulo Bloom gave me some good information. We pulled some information off the PCGS website, Variety Vista. So all those items are the coins that we talked about, that there were a lot of questions. That information is going to be on my community tab. So go ahead and go over and look at that. It's already live. I've already posted all of that stuff while Chuck was going through those items. So it's a great resource to be able to look at some of those items and see what you should be seeing. And again, I've bookmarked a couple spots within this particular live stream, so you can go back to that. Unfortunately, the places I thought I was bookmarking didn't. I don't think I got them all. I'm still learning on that. That's a new thing within StreamYard, so bear with me on the learning process for that. But you can come back and see this video anytime you want. If you're ever looking at something, utilize it as a resource. As always, Paula, thank you so much for putting stuff in chat and for sharing resources. I appreciate you not only putting it in chat, but sending me text messages and adding some of those photos. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for all your support in helping me become smarter. And then again, for everybody who's in chat, we had a couple super chats. So Killer Strider and CM Silver, thank you so much for the super chats. Again, not required on my channel, but if you want to support the channel, you're more than welcome to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day. We'll see you over at Coin Cruise. Go get you some coffee, take a little bio break, and we will catch you around. All right. Stay tuned to my video on Tuesday. Secret Santa. Thanks, Laney. We'll see you. Bye-bye.